What up, Eagle Talk fam?
What's up, guys? We are back with another Doing the Scary story.
Yes, we are so excited, and welcome to episode 116. And I have to tell you that we are about to interview probably the nicest person I've ever met in my life.
Hands down.
Literally. Y'all, we are introducing you to our boy, Chi-Town boy.
You already know.
Lucas Payne. What
What's
up,
up,
Lucas?
What up, y'all? Thank you for having me.
He is a friend, but also family. So thank you for showing up for us.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And I'm really excited to be on Eagle Talk.
Yes.
It's good.
Yep.
We're so excited. Okay, so little background, y'all. So Lucas, as we stared, is from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But we probably just met you. Has it been a little bit over a year, maybe a year and a half?
I would say we've been here 4 years, and I think we met maybe about 2 years.
2 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe about 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years and some change.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we did not know each other in Chicago, but when we got to know each other, it's like, oh, we know 50-11 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said that 50-11.
Yep. That's a real number. For everybody.
That's a real number. So we know tons of the same people, and like Corey said, it's just been all love ever since we met you.
Yes.
And not only getting to know you and your beautiful family, but just getting to know your story has been phenomenal. And like I said, you truly are, I think, one of the most kindest, gentlest people that I've ever met. But you still about that life, right?
Don't do my boy like that. That was the old Lucas. That's not
was
the
the
Texas
old
Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate that. Like to be thought of as a kind person, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, I love it. So tell the Eagle Talk family a little bit about yourself. Like, we're giving our introductions, but who is Lucas Payne?
So, first and foremost, believer, father, husband, entrepreneur. I think those are probably the four capes I wear, the most. Been from the Chicago suburbs, grew up in and around Chicago, a lot of different places, been entrepreneurial for pretty much all of my life.
Yeah.
Early on, it was by force, not by choice.
Okay.
Because I came from really, really modest, very kind of dire straight kind of situation. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, the need to be entrepreneurial came in very early in my life. And then as I kind of navigated different stages of my life, the want to be entrepreneurial, definitely evolved.
While we're talking Chicago, Lucas, what did you do for work back then?
So what did I do for work? In my early 20s, I started to work for some Korean gentlemen. You remember Diana Shoes, right? Mm-hmm. 63rd and Halsted.
Yeah.
And so they opened up a store out in Elgin. Right? And I went to work with these Korean guys, and they had the shoe store, and they also had some cell phone shops. And of course, I was already trying to do like nightclub, concert, and promotion, trying to do some entrepreneurial things. But my 9 to 5, one of my early 9 to 5s was working in those shoe stores. And I got the inside track of watching how the Korean culture, handled business and what they did for each other. So I quickly became like the store manager because A, I spoke English, and B, I knew how to connect with everybody that was coming in the store. And started to hire staff. But what would happen, every time we went to go open another store, one of Joshua's friends would come and open the store for him. And these were seasoned entrepreneurs. And they would go sit, in the store on the west side or south side or out in the suburbs 6 days a week for like $400 just to help him grow his business.
Wow.
And so it's something called the Han principle in Korea, in Korean, culture that I was completely unaware of. But it was it gave me some format early on to understand how business gets done.
Is that what sparked the entrepreneurial seed inside of you, looking at that situation?
It did. And so what happened, it was kind of my first exit, if you will.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity to, basically I had sweat equity, right? And
Yeah.
I've been in a sweat equity position a few times early on where I was willing to kind of do the work, but get a percent of the overall business and a smaller salary, right?
Yeah.
And so in this case, we grew from about 3 cell phone stores to 11 and sold the whole package off to US Cellular.
Wow.
And so that was an early exit, and I was able to get a small bag from that. And it was the thing that really was like, okay, I can learn something here. And I think I was about 24 or 25 on that when we were able to exit.
No, that's awesome. I'm thinking of, what did you call the principal, the Korean principal?
Han principle.
Han principle. And what I hear from that, even though now you are you out of your Obama year?
I'm sorry.
Yo,
I'm out of my Obama year. I'm into that Trump territory.
If y'all don't know, if you're 44 years old,
Right.
you that's your Obama year, then we just got to keep rolling. So I knew you just celebrated a birthday, but my point is that 20 years ago, you learned a principle just from what was modeled for you in business. But
Right.
I definitely see that principle. I see you doing that in your everyday life. Just a couple weeks ago, we were at a birthday party. Well, it was all, look, they celebrated all the things.
Yeah,
right?
that was one for the money.
It was. But you hosted a party, and even at this party that you hosted, you were adamant, like, hey, Rosemary, I may want to make sure that I connect you to this person. Y'all need to know each other. And that's what I think about you, is that you are a helper and you are a connector. So I can see where that principle was planted in you 20 years ago, and now you still continue to model that to this day.
Yeah, he's definitely a connector. I am proud to say that Lucas introduced me to the second billionaire I've ever met. The first billionaire is Steve Wynn, who we met at the Wynn.
Okay.
On the Wynn Hotels in Las Vegas.
Sure did.
And we went to he's part of a mastermind, still once a month, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I got introduced a couple times now to the second billionaire I've ever met. So he's a connector for real, for real.
So how has that, played a part in not only your business, but you relocating here to Texas, because you said you've been here 4 years, and Lucas is like the man of he like the mayor of the city,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Everybody, he's at every city event. Like, you are networking, you are connecting. So how has all of that translated to you doing this stepping out on faith, not only in entrepreneurship, but coming here?
Well, first of all, it wasn't just scared. I was completely opposed to moving here.
You were you right.
Yes,
I remember your story.
I wasn't just scared. I was opposed. I was, and I was, the fear was, I just started a new business at the end of 2018.
Okay.
Right?
What business was that?
And that was Force Energy Group, which is, the same. I've been in the energy space for a long time. Essentially what I do is I help commercial real estate developments and other properties just perform better by, changing the lights out, HVAC, help them find tax deductions and credits from the utility that they don't know about. And of course, we go and do solar and some of that other kind of stuff too. So been doing that for a long time. Had just started a new company because I had sold my company previously to a publicly traded company. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, okay, getting this thing off the ground. And it was really important to my wife that we moved for a number of reasons. Mm-hmm. And then she also simultaneously got an opportunity with her company. So it was like all the stars were lining up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Except Lucas. You was like, no.
Right. And we got a baby on the way. So I'm like, how am I going to figure this out? I'm going to have to be in Chicago 4 days a week. You're going to be down here with a new baby. How am I going to tell my investors that I'm not at the crib anymore?
Yeah.
That's kind of
that's
important.
a problem. Yeah.
Right. That's a problem. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, we just
up and left.
Just wrote you a 7-figure check, and you're talking about you're not going to live in the place where we're doing business. Had a 10,000 square foot warehouse, people, all the stuff. So I think coming here, what happened and what it was funny that COVID happened after,
right? Because
COVID forced me to figure out how to manage my business remotely. And I did not have that skill set. Mm-hmm. My wife had worked remote, other people work remote. I think it was crazy. I'm the type of dude in management, I do the 8:30 stand-up meeting kind of person, right? I want to see everybody's face. I would even ask all the directors what are your top 3 things that you're going to accomplish today?
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
I'm about to say, Lucas, were you that guy?
I in a management scenario, I am that guy.
I didn't know.
And so, yeah, and I think that the pandemic also, besides helping me not be a micromanager, also helped me understand how to better interact with, just myself and realize, and my business.
Yeah.
And realize like, okay, I can do this, and it ultimately allows for us to scale and grow, right? Because if I'm too deep in it and I don't empower the people to do their jobs, then
they won't. They won't. Yeah, they don't have any ownership. So you get here, were you kicking and screaming, or did you just kind of decide like, okay, we here?
I was kicking and screaming internally. I think as a husband, you support, right?
Yeah.
You support your wife, you support the journey. But so I was kicking and screaming internally. I get here, and the pandemic hits, and once it's Texas. So the cool thing about Texas, I would fly back from Chicago to Texas. You couldn't get in a restaurant in Chicago and come back to Texas every week and be like,
wide open.
COVID's over down here, right? So it was a different thing. But once we were able to start moving around down here, I really just I wanted to engage. It's like, I have to be where I am.
Yeah.
Right. And not fight the fact that I'm, kind of missing the house, or missing good food, missing good people, missing the connections that I thought I had or that were important to me.
No, I've heard you say, and I'm trying to think about where we were, because Lucas is also a part of like a small cohort mastermind we do. But I heard you say something like, I forget where we were, Lucas, but we were there with just these different professionals, and everyone was giving and sharing. And you were like, y'all, aren't y'all happy we're here in Texas? Because where could we, like, this wasn't, I don't even know if it wasn't available to us in Chicago, but I know that if nothing else, my mindset has shifted after I came here. And it is not that I was mean there, but there, I think it was the culture is a little bit about you, just like, what can I get? And here, I just feel a lot of helping hands, which compels me to help. And you were just expressing that. And tell us how you got to that place, because you had such deep roots at home.
Yeah, I think I think there's a level of comfort, right? If I'm being transparent, like where everybody's doing okay, and it kind of like let your guard down and say, how can we do well together? Right? There's a little bit less kind of crab in the barrel kind of mentality. Well, a lot less, in my experience. I've said blatantly, I've done more business with some of my own people from Chicago, from my neighborhood. I literally invested with a couple that lived in Bronzeville, 2 years ago on a project that we lived in the same neighborhood, but we had never done anything like that. We were able to do it when we were here. So I think, there's a level of maturity, there's a level of like, just comfort. And then there's also overall, when you're in an emerging market like, DFW, there's just so much going on, so much energy. And I think that's easy to plug in and be ready to work with people.
Yeah, going back to Chicago, I think we weren't, us included, right, weren't really willing to share as much. We weren't as open with each other as we are here.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of sets those two situations apart.
Right.
Let me ask you this, because fear is a mindset. And there had to be something that happened, or a switch that went off that said, how they say, I'm going to make it, or I'm going to make it, right? It's just not, it's going to work. Right. What was that experience? Did something happen to you there, or did something happen to you here?
I think something happens all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I think that at different stages of your life, when you're fearful, or when you're worried, or when you're concerned about how things are going to come out, what I do is I kind of always try to rely on the times that were the hardest times of my life ever.
Yeah.
Right? Because unfortunately you have more of those.
Yeah.
But if you look back to the strength that you had to get through things, I think that those are the times that you really are able to grow. For me, even after coming here and after doing well during the transition of the pandemic, I still took a hit.
Yeah.
Right? I took a really big financial hit that I did not see coming after doing probably more top line revenue than I ever had. So it was you're going to go through things. But if you kind of look back and remember man, I've done it before. I've had strength before. I've gotten hit when I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And ultimately rely on like the accumulation of all of your resources. And you know, the other thing I think about when you talk about the spirit of friendship and the spirit of like community, you both do an awesome job of giving of your friends and connections freely.
Yeah.
So a lot of the connections that I've made, whether I've done business with them or just become friends with them, are because of relationships like this. Where instead of holding all of our people tight, hey, this is my person, this is my person, this is my, you know, Corey, you gave me people that, you know, lenders, like so I could pursue my real estate.
Yeah.
You know, just you give that stuff freely. And I think that you know, I don't hold things tight. I let it go.
Yeah.
Because there may be a situation where, hey, you need something that I have or that I know where, you know, and I want you to have it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I'm even looking at like if you all are not watching on YouTube and you're listening, like I'm looking at your mannerisms, like you're holding your hand tight and opening it. And like literally I see that going through you.
Yeah.
And that is something that even when it comes to like, you know, money mindset, I just think of all the different ways that when you're like, you know what, I want to be fluid, and I want to have fluidity in my ideas and in my thoughts and in my friendships and in, you know, and even the equity that I'm able to bring into my life and also provide it to others' lives. That is such a rich thing. And unfortunately, but I don't know if it's because we're in Texas or if like this is the way the world is now, that we are just a little bit more open to having that helping hand where these other cultures have been doing it forever.
Sure.
You know, and now we are becoming more open. But you touched on the hit that you took, right? And this is something like, this is one of the reasons that we have Eagle Talk, because I know that, you know, sometimes it's, look, I remember one time we went to dinner with you and your wife. She was like, you know, I want him to look like my little Puerto Rican poppy, even though you're not Puerto Rican, right?
I'm not.
but if you look at Lucas, he's well put together and, you know, dapper and all that stuff. But like even behind the scenes of really great business and really great business ideas, things happen. So you took a hit, but your bounce back spirit, because I feel like we met you when you were on the bounce back, and let's talk about that, because it's somebody right now. Every market, you know, inflation, life looks different in 2023 than it did in 2020 and 2021. And a lot of people have taken some financial hits.
Right.
What was that like for you to bounce back?
So, I mean, first of all, nobody talks about L's, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important as entrepreneurs and as business people, we let people know, like, hey, you're going to take L's. It just happens. And so your mindset in that time is going to be critical. I think for the bounce back, you know, when you're kind of sad and you're stuck in your ways and you're upset about everything and you know you're feeling that pressure. I mean, if you've ever been in $1 million worth or more of debts, that thing feels like the whole weight of a building is on top of you. I would go to sleep thinking about it. I would wake up thinking about it. Right? There was no relief.
Yeah.
But what I noticed as I look back and as I started to come out of it, I realized that I wasn't doing just those basic things that I promised myself that I would always do. Give those first few minutes to God when I open my eyes up. Not to the pressures of the world, but just to check in and pray, to make sure that every morning I would go for my walk and listen to, you know, some podcast, some motivational thing or some inspirational thing or a sermon. And of course, read a few passages of the Bible. That was my thing. And I noticed when I was down, I wasn't doing my thing. And sometimes it's important to go back to those habits. Of course we need to feel motivated, but habits are what really save you when you're in a bad spot.
It's amazing that you say that, because I was having a conversation with somebody last week, and it might have been you, actually.
Probably was me.
We were talking about how repetition is boring. You know what I'm saying? Like, to continue to do the same thing over and over and over again just gets boring. But that's how you win. Right? To continue to just stay disciplined and do those reps, and you look up and you up from the situation.
Yeah, and what you're saying, Lucas, like I was just part of my conversation with that is habits do save you. You know, like I just think, and then what happens is that when you're going through a tough time, what you have conditioned your body, your mind to, it will involuntarily go there. I'm thinking about when my mom was making her transition. You know, I wanted to set the atmosphere, and I played worship music the whole 5 days, you know. And what would happen is, because I was in the habit of worshiping on my own long before I knew this was happening, is that worship erupted out of me. As I'm watching my mother transition. Like, I remember they took her body out and I just fell to my knees and like worshiped in that very hard moment. But it was because I was in the habit of being a worshiper, right?
Okay.
So what you're saying about, because I'm like this too, catch-22, is that sometimes when I have a tough moment, I will find myself retreating and not doing the things. But to ground myself, I do need to get back to those basic things. And it seems small, like I got $1 million worth of debt. What is going for this walk outside gonna do? But it's going to ground you, because your body and your mind remembers that, hey, no matter what's going on around us, we have these things that ground us.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I love that.
Let me switch gears. Let's go to, you know, we live our life on the 5 F's: faith, family, fitness, finances, and fun. I know you live a life similar, right? On all of those things. Let's pick one. I know your faith is big. Can you give us an example on when you knew it was your faith, or a situation to where you knew that you just being grounded in God was how you propelled out of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think at 32 years old, I found myself in a whole lot of trouble with the law.
Okay.
Okay. And
Been there.
I had, I'm sorry, not 32, at 25 years old, found myself in a whole lot of trouble with the law. And I was scared. I was, you know, feeling bad for myself, feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah. How are you going to get out of it?
How am I going to get out of it? But it's kind of that when I look back over my life, I started to think about all of the times that God had my back, and that I grew up really crazy. You know, foster homes. Unfortunately, my mother was mentally ill, so I would every time she would have a baby, by the end of that pregnancy, she would be off her medication for so long that we would all have to go into foster homes. She picked horrible men, or horrible men were attracted to her because of her circumstances. So when I would go through stuff and all those different adversities, I thought about, at 25, like, man, I've been through it, right?
Yeah.
I've been in group homes and foster homes, and been around all this kind of horrible stuff, and I was able to make it out. And so I think that reminder that God has just always been there, and it's kind of cliche, but do y'all remember the footprints?
The footprints in the sand.
The footprints in the sand.
Yeah, you better
and
know
so
that.
at my grandmother's house, God rest her soul, that's what came to me. At that time, was that those footprints in the sand, that God was going to have. He had been there for me. He had carried me. And in full transparency, I didn't become a Christian until I was about 32 years old. So, but I had a relationship.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love that. And I love that. Even you said something before, is that, you have to reflect back. I just had a conversation with a client, like, you have survived 100% of your tough days. And I know that today feels impossible, but there have been other days that felt impossible. So even when you're looking at a seven figures in debt, I know it's probably like, but I ain't in a foster home,
Right.
like, Lord, if you were able to, and sometimes we have to, not that we minimize our situations or what we need to actually address, but sometimes when we really think, like, you know what, like, I have my health, or even if I don't have my health, I am here today.
Yeah.
And when I really look at the totality of my situation, life ain't too bad.
right.
Yeah.
Life ain't too bad. And everything is figure outable.
Figure outable. I like that.
Yeah, that was my portfolio.
I like that. I like that. No, Corey and I have talked a lot about first world problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being blessed now in this situation where, we were just talking about taxes. I get to pay taxes, right? But I remember for most of my life, I was waiting on an income tax return.
Yeah.
Like in that return, well, not most, but early on in my life, and I was like, man, if I get that
majority,
that $2,500, that $3,500 was going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Right.
It was going to pay some bills. It was gonna maybe put some money down on a car. Or when I was in a hustling situation, I'm like, okay, when they get their tax return, I'm going to be able to sell them more
something.
phones.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to sell them more, shoes or whatever entrepreneurial business I was in. So, saying, oh, I get to pay taxes. But dealing with it really is it's a different situation. Now, I want to get to the level where I don't pay them, like that. That's a whole nother conversation, right there.
Getting them jets and stuff.
But I know exactly what you mean.
So look, as we're closing out, this is such a great episode. I'm so happy that that we had an opportunity to have you on. What would you say though? Because what we have recognized is that Eagle Talk really is for people who they like trying to figure out how to get in a double Dutch line. Like, ooh, I don't want to trip, but I want to jump in. What would you say to that person who wants to make a leap, whether that be into education or entrepreneurship or relationships or whatever, but they are just scared to take the leap, and sometimes it feels easier to just stay comfortable. Stuck. What would you say to them? You
got to go, and you have to go, because my journey, I went from cell phones and shoes to energy efficiency. And some concert promotion and stuff along the way. Now I'm considered a leader in a space that I don't have a degree in, that I don't have, a huge background in, from being able to perform with some of the literally some of the largest companies in the world trust me with their buildings, right? And new construction. You don't know where the journey's going to take you, and that is scary. But if you don't jump out there and put yourself out there, you will never know the outcome. And so my advice, do not, all that sitting there waiting, anticipating, reading, thinking. You have to just go out there and do it, and you have to do it scared.
Yeah. Like they say, most people at the end of their life, they sit there and they have a whole lot of regrets. Don't be that person. Go out there, take that jump.
Well, we appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Not just coming here and just sharing so beautifully with all of our Eagles, but also just really being a part of our lives. Being a part of a mastermind group, being a friend, being a father, being a friend to my husband. I'm just so grateful for you, and we are rooting for all things Lucas Payne. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate you out. We'll see you on the next one, y'all. Thank you.